What's up, guys? Spiritual Lemonade back with another video. This is everything that I listened to from everything that dropped on June 6th of 2025. We have some other albums that I went back and re-listened to or listened to for the first time that didn't drop this week, so I'm going to sprinkle some of that in there as well. The first project that I want to talk about is called From Here On Out by Kai Uriah. This was an EP, and this is honestly the first time this year that I think I've heard from him. I know last year he dropped a few songs that I really liked, but he kind of went ghost for a little bit and then came back with this EP right here. And it was a super solid listen. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. It was a short project for being gone so long. But I couldn't really complain too much about what was on here. It didn't seem like anything super crazy considering some of the other songs he was dropping last year, which is why I didn't give it anything higher than a 3 out of 5. But it is a very solid, very Kai Uriah sounding EP. I would definitely recommend you go listen to it if you haven't already. Next up, we got Sinner's Soul Deluxe by Pierre. This was the album Sinner's Soul that he dropped, I think, earlier this year, maybe last year, honestly. At this point I feel like maybe it was last year, but he dropped 4 new tracks on this right away. 6 feet potholes or 6 foot potholes and try, featuring Christian Scarborough. I'd Ego, I think is how you pronounce it, bro. I've mispronounced it so many times, and I know he's told me so many times. I'm pretty sure it's I'd Ego. Kins and Larizi, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce that either, but these were 4 super solid songs. Davy Jones is still my all-time favorite from this album. There's just nothing that compares to it, but I will say these last 4 songs were super fire. I think they were needed on this album. I gave it a solid 3 out of 5. Go into the next one, New Leaf. This is also a deluxe version of an album. New Leaf, The Growth Continues by Mike Teasy. This was a really long album. It was an hour and 11 minutes long, which I can't really complain too much about because it's not like there were a lot of 10, 11, 12 minute long songs. There was just a lot of extra songs on here, and he kind of mixed in the new songs with the other track list, so it was really hard to tell which ones were new and which ones were not new. I'm pretty sure I Got a Secret remix with 1K Few. I liked that one a lot. There were some at the end that I really liked. It's a Show, Just Like Magic, Say Amen. Those were all super fire. I really enjoyed some of these new songs. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5, which is weird for a deluxe. Usually deluxe albums get somewhat of a lower rating than normal for me, but for some reason I really enjoyed all these new tracks. They were super solid. Mike Teasy, I don't always think of him as a rapper because he does a lot of the singing stuff, but then when I start hearing him rap, he goes absolutely crazy. He's got bars, he's got flow, and even the auto-tune that he uses on there, kind of like Lil Wayne does sometimes. I really like that. So shout out to him for that one. Next up, we have All We Like Sheep by Childlike CC. And Childlike CC I've been listening to for a long time, pretty much since she started. And she's kind of hit or miss for me, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes, or all the time for sure, she has bars. There's no denying the fact that she has a crazy pen game. Sometimes it's just the delivery for me. She goes about it in a very unique way, which a lot of the times it works for her. But sometimes just a higher pitch when she's rapping, to me, just isn't my favorite. But for the most part on this project, it was really solid, as well as the lyrics and the meaning behind this whole thing. I really liked the All I Know track with Too Cool Tiff, Linnell Grant, and Jackie Hill Perry. There was also a feature from Futuristic on here. And then her song with KB as well went crazy. It's Time. I gave this a solid 3 out of 5 as well. I think this is the first album that I've listened to from Childlike CC. I've pretty much just listened to singles that she's put out. So I did actually really like the body of work. It was well put together, I will say that. Next up, we got A Traveler's Guide to Remorse by Lito. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. But this was a really short EP. It was only 5 tracks and let's see, 15 minutes long, so it was a decent length. EP considering how many tracks, but this had a feature from Not Clyde, which is why it popped up on my Spotify release radar. And I was very surprised with this album or EP. I just really loved the production. I really loved the vocals. I loved his presence on these tracks. There was very like captivating. I really enjoyed it. I've never heard of Lito, I don't think, before. So I'm definitely going to be tapping into more of his music in the future just based off of this EP right here. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next up, we got Victory Season by Jay Fish. Jay Fish is another rapper that I've been listening to for a long time. And I also don't think I've listened to a full album from him before as well. I've obviously listened to a lot of his singles, and I've added a lot of his songs to playlists before. But this is the first album that I've sat down and really listened to all the way through. And I wanted to point out this feature right here, Ain't No Way, featuring Zay Hill. Zay Hill, sometimes for me, like when he puts an album out, I'm not always the biggest fan of it, but when he does features and when he does singles with other artists, I really like it, because I feel like the other artists bring out the best in Zay Hill when he does that. That's not to say that some of his other music that he drops on his own isn't good. I just prefer like when he does something like this, and Zay Hill went absolutely crazy on this song. I really loved it. There was another song with Dion that was really good on that. Whoa. Obviously, it's called Victory Season, so it brings out that kind of feeling throughout this album. Very victorious kind of sounding music. So kind of more hype stuff. I gave this a solid 3.5 out of 5. There's definitely bangers on here that would go perfect in like a workout playlist or something like that. So shout out to Jay Fish for this album. Next up, we got Who Is Foe. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce this album. This is going to be one of a few albums that I really enjoyed this week. This is Who Is Foe by Staringo and 3UFF. I don't know how to pronounce that second name. And I was a huge fan of this album. I actually wrote a review. I said I'm a huge fan of Staringo and have been listening to him pretty much since the start of his career. My biggest problem specifically is when he puts out an album, is he always has 1 to 3 songs where the autotune is either completely out of key or just it sounds very hard to listen to. The last album that sounded near perfect was Secession 5 years ago. That was with Aha Gazelle. That was also a joint album. The consistency with the autotune and vocal mix is what made this album so good. He always has fire bars, and the other stuff I mentioned is where most of his other albums lack. So this was refreshing to hear. And that is my honest thoughts on Staringo. Staringo puts out tons of albums, but within those albums, a lot of times he uses autotune when he really doesn't even need to, and a lot of the times he's just using it in the wrong key, in my opinion. He's got on albums like I'm forgetting Good Kid, Bad City or whatever. Maybe that's not the name of it, but it's the one with Anxiety on it. Anxiety is a 10 out of 10 song, but then you have other songs on that album where it kind of brings the album as a whole, like that whole album, down a little bit. So that's just where I stand. He's got songs like That Mode with Aha Gazelle, and on that album there were a couple other bangers like I Can, and then there's just other songs on there that kind of bring it down. But on this album, every single song was incredible. We had features from Main, I know him, and then Dominion TRK also seemed familiar to me. I'm not sure why, but the features also went crazy on this. So shout out to Staringo for that one. Next up, we got Brotherhood by Kappa. Kappa is a underground artist in the Christian space, and this is, I think, his first album. I could be wrong on that. I know he puts out projects like EPs, but I don't know if he's ever done a full-length album like this before. The only there's 2 features on this, Efosa and JX0. They both went crazy on this one, and this was a super solid listen all the way through, considering that he is still pretty underground. I gave this a 4 out of 5 as well. I really enjoyed all of these songs. Like he switched up the style of songs that he was doing. Like he was really showing off his versatility throughout this. Hosanna was kind of like I think it was kind of like an Afrobeat kind of song if I remember correctly. It's been a couple days since I listened to it, so I'm blanking on which one that was. But he definitely switched up production and flows on this, so I really enjoyed it. It was super solid, like really well mixed. So shout out to Kappa for that. Next up, we got Folk, the full album by Rend Collective. This album, I think, has kind of gone through a few different like EP releases, and now it's the full album. And this is just a bunch of Christian folk music, really well written. This is kind of like worship music, but in the style of folk music, if that makes sense. It's not like Henrik's kind of folk music where it's folk and sometimes he'll talk about faith a little bit in the lyrics. This is like straight up worship lyrics in the form and style, like being played in the style of folk music. So I really, really enjoyed that. I'm a huge fan of folk music. The banjo was all over this. I really loved that. The last couple songs, John 16:33, Still Water featuring Abby Seiler, and I also really liked A Prayer of St. Patrick as well. Those three are incredible. Like it took a little bit for me to find like one of those, oh man, this is the song that I love from this album. I think that song is Still Water, which is the last song. But I gave this a 3.5 out of 5. I definitely recommend to go listen to this if you like folk music, specifically Christian folk. Next up we got the Struggle EP by T-Strike. T-Strike is a rapper from Atlanta, I believe. And I've been following him for a while since I found him on TikTok. I found him, and he did a remix to a song that I was like, man, he went crazy on this. And that's what got me following him. I've done a couple reactions, I think, on the channel to his music. This is the first project kind of that he's released since I've started following him that I know of. I gave this a 3 out of 5. Super solid. The beats were fire. The writing was really good. Thug Letter, Love Letter, that was fire. And then some Mo. They all really went crazy, but those were my favorites from this project. We got Young Priest to Preacher with his new EP called Congratulations. I gave this a 2.5 out of 5. I probably could have given it a 3 as well. But it was... I almost gave... T-Strike a 2.5 out of 5 as well, just because of the length. Like it was only his project was 5 songs, but this project was 4 songs, so it really wasn't a ton of stuff. But it was very solid. Like the only thing that it lacked is just like I wish there was more on this project, because the flows, the mix and everything on this was really well done. Obviously it's still kind of underground music. It still has that underground sound to it. It's not completely professional sounding, but for as underground as it is, it still had I'd put some of these songs in a playlist. So shout out to Young Priest to Preacher on that one. We got Wavy and Holy 2 up next by Andrew Scatina. I gave this a 2.5 out of 5 as well. There's a lot of potential with this artist. I've never heard of him before, but he popped up on my release radar, probably because these features had, or the features, I recognized all of them, and I follow all of them. We had Ku, Main 2 Wavy, Venice, and Brocky. I think just with some more like time working on lyrics and stuff, and a little bit of production as well, I feel like Andrew Scatina will be, I think he can get to a place where he'd drop like a 3.5 out of 5 star project. This is also a pretty short project. It's only 5 songs and it's like 10 minutes long, so it's under 2 minutes per song. And there's also features on almost all the songs, so I would like to hear more from Andrew Scatina, maybe less features. And just focus more on lyrics, because his sound, like his vocal quality, is really good. I think some of the lyrics just need to be worked on a little bit. That's all I have to say about this one. Next up we got Ben Fuller with his new album called Walk Through Fire. This is Christian country, like straight up Christian country. I did not know that it was going to be that. Listening to it, I assumed it was just going to be CCM, but we have a feature from Carrie Underwood on this, which is crazy. I was shocked when I saw that, especially for how Christian this sounds. Um, I don't. I knew Carrie Underwood sometimes talked about Jesus. I'm not sure if she's a Christian. I don't really keep up with her too much. I just know the name. Um, but like she sounded really good on this feature that she did on If It Was Up to Me. The title track Walk Through Fire was really good. I liked, what was the other one that I really liked? I think it was Black Sheep that I really liked. That was another really good song on this. It was a really good quality album. It would have probably gotten a higher rating from me, but I'm not the biggest country fan, so the highest I probably could give it is 3.5 out of 5, which is still pretty high considering it's country. Um, but yeah, I looked into Ben Fuller's story. He has a really cool story as well. You can go to the Spotify page and read about it if you want. But I definitely recommend you go listen to this album. Next up, we have another really high rated album on this list called King Who Never Sleeps, Anthems for Rest by Christy Nockels. I think Nockels, I don't know how to pronounce that. But this is a really long album as well. It's over an hour long. And halfway through, I was like, man, this is really solid. Like, there's nothing really wrong with this album. Like, there's nothing standing out really to me other than it's really well produced, really well mixed. She sounds really good. And then you get to the last half, like from song 7 to 14, and that's when it really picked up. Really, all of those songs, Be Where Your Feet Are, Better Than We Know, Under the Feathers of God, featuring Mitch Wong. You guys know I'm a huge fan of Mitch Wong, ABBA. And then I wanted to shout out, I think it was Fly the Nest Song and Keep Your Eyes on Jesus. Those were like my top 2 favorite on this. And just as the title says, Anthems for Rest, this is very much like a lullaby kind of sounding album, not in a bad way, like it's going to put you to sleep in a bad way. It's like I would put this on in the background like taking a nap or something, just because it's so peaceful and so calming. And it was just really well done. Like some of these songs, I feel like there were a couple that may have been covers, but for the most part, I'm pretty sure they were original songs, if not all of them. So shout out to Christy Nockels. That got a 4 out of 5 from me on that one. Next up, we got Presence and Power by Bristol House. This was also it was almost an in-between of the Christy Nockels album and like a standard worship album. I don't even know how to describe it. It was like worship, but not your typical like Hillsong production behind it. It had a lot more instrumentation, and it was a lot more stripped back in a sense. What a Friend, Not One. That is one of my favorite worship songs of all time, and I haven't heard a perfect like rendition of it before. And this version specifically by Bristol House is my favorite that I've ever heard. It's the closest to like the way that I would love to hear it sung. It was incredible. And then All Creatures of Our God and King was also a fire follow-up to that. I highly recommend you go at least listen to those 2 songs on this album, but the whole thing front to finish is really good. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 on this one. Next up, we got Love Like You by Emma Neeson. This is a album that dropped last year, so it's not one that dropped this week. I think the rest of what I'm going to be talking about are albums that I've re-listened to or listened to for the first time, but are not new this week. But Love Like You by Emma Neeson. This is Christian jazz. Like, this is straight up jazz music right here. It sounds like Frank Sinatra kind of style music. And this was recommended to me from the group chat that I'm in with Christian music reviewers and stuff on Music Board, which is what I'm looking at right now. This is what I use to rate and all the albums that I listen to. This and one other one that we're going to talk about today is like the 2 main Christian jazz albums that I've been able to find, and this was a really well done album. Just felt very jazz. From the production, the way she sings, the vocal techniques and everything. It was just a really well packaged album, and I don't know why I feel like other people should be talking about this more, especially for like a subgenre of Christian music that there's really not many people out there doing, just full force jazz like this. So I would recommend this to anyone who's into jazz music and is looking for Christian jazz music specifically. I gave this a 4 out of 5. And the next one that we're going to talk about is also another 4 out of 5 album. And it's Christian jazz. I'm pretty sure it's Christian. It's called A Love Supreme by John Coltrane. From what I heard in the group chat that I'm in, John Coltrane may not be Christian anymore. He may have changed his belief system. I could be wrong on that, but at the time of this recording, he was a Christian. And this is also, even honestly, probably more jazzy than the other album I was talking about. More instrumentation than lyrics. Like, the other album had lyrics to every single song. This one was more focused on the instruments. Like, there was a lot of horns, a lot of instruments going on throughout this project, and very limited amount of lyrics. But it was a very solid listen. I recommend it to anyone looking for Christian jazz music as well. So that is a 4 out of 5 album from me. Next album, or it's an EP, is called Don't Quit by FOG, I think is how you pronounce it. I could be wrong. I'm terrible at at pronouncing names, you guys know. I always have to apologize. But I really like this. It was a short EP. It was 5 songs. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5. The production was crazy. There was he's got all of Kendrick, and we have The Off Season by J. Cole. We got Wu-Tang Clan, I think. Drake even. Drake. But we have Kendrick. You can see all of his influences musically in the cover art of this project. And you can hear even some Kanye. And when I was listening to this, I was like, this sounds like the Migos right here. So this project just was a fun listen. I highly recommend if you're looking for some fresh sounding music. You can just hear a lot of different inspiration from some of my favorite rappers of all time, like the Kendrick and I guess even J. Cole a little bit. But I was even kind of this sounds a little bit like Kanye, or this sounds like the Migos a little bit. So I definitely recommend you go listening to that. And when I say that it sounds like that, I'm not saying he's trying to sound or copy them. It's just you can tell he's inspired from them, and it's very evident in the music. So I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. And the last album that we're going to talk about today is Shine by the Grey Havens. Now, this is an album, but it's an unfinished album. The full album will be dropping later this year. I will go back when that drops and re-listen and then re-review it. I gave this, I should have probably given this a 3 out of 5 for room to grow with the rest of the album, but I did give it a 3.5 out of 5 just because the production was really well done. The vocals and the mix on this one was also really well done. It's very emotional, very deep, very soft sounding album. Where the Living is Deep was one of my favorites. Give Me Rest was also really good. Those are 2 that I would highly recommend to go listen to. But yeah, I don't have much more to say other than I will be listening to the full album when it drops later this year. And that's all I have for this week. Next week will be June 13th, I think. So whatever this Friday is, whatever tomorrow is, because this is a Thursday, whatever tomorrow is, I will be doing a video next Thursday of everything that dropped tomorrow, and I'll be back at it like a bad habit. I'm kidding. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this kind of video. I love doing this. This is just a great way for me to support and encourage artists, as well as give critical kind of feedback on it. But also I don't want some of these albums to just be passed over, because a lot of them will be. So me making these videos, I know some people tell me that they go and listen to these albums after, and it really helps them find good music. I hope this is what I hope that's the fruit that comes from it, is that people just get good recommendations, and if there's something I didn't like, maybe that's just a sign to not listen to it, or you can go listen to it and, make your own like critiques on whatever I listen to. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Go be fruitful. Let's go.